Well, that's Fastlane in the books. And what did I think of the show? Well, let's get into that. First things first, they moved Riddle versus Ali for the US title to the pre-show, so that's where we'll start. On the so the match happened on the pre-show. And it was actually a pretty damn good match. There was a lot of cool counters back and forth between them. A really nice one where I think Riddle knocked Mustafa down. Went for a pin. He kicked out and immediately went into a Koji clutch. But then you get to the finish. He gets Riddle in the it's like he knocks Riddle off the top rope starts beating on him in the top rope, but then Riddle turns it around and actually hits a second rope bro Derek to win and retain his championship. Clean as a whistle, no bones about it. Retribution didn't get involved any time. And I say that because once the match is over and Riddle walks away, Mustafa starts yelling at them, saying that they've let him down again. How many times are you going to let me down? Even though they didn't do shit in that match. So this leads to Reckoning. Reckoning just basically just not listening to him anymore and walking off. Same goes for Slapjack. And then that leaves T-Bar and Mace. And they decide, screw this guy, we don't want to hear about him anymore. And hit him with a double choke slam. Hold on a moment. Sorry. That happens sometimes. Anyway. So yeah, it looks like maybe Retribution is dead. At least Mustafa has been ousted from the group. But I'm not sure if the group itself has been officially ended. I hope it has, but it didn't look like the rest of Retribution took off their gear, so they might have just ousted Mustafa but keeps being a team. I would prefer it if they just took off the mask. I would be okay if Dominic Dijakovic and Dio Madden stay as a tag team and all that. That's fine, but I would prefer if they just dropped all the stupid masks and went back to their old names. But yeah, that's that. Good, really good match. And considering another match that happened on this show, I kind of wish it had been on the actual show. Anyway, we started the show properly with the tag team title match. Shayna and Nia versus Alexa and Shayna. I'm completely out of it. Let me try this again. We started the show properly with the tag team with the women's tag team title match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. That's more correct. Anyway, the match itself is fine. Good counters back and forth, some good teamwork here and there. Ultimately, the match comes to a head when Bianca Belair hits Shayna with a 450 splash. Reginald gets up on the turnbuckle. Sasha tries to attack him, but Reginald ducks out of the way. The ref and Bianca get distracted by this. Shayna tries to go for a Kirifuda clutch, but Bianca's able to reverse it. Tags in Sasha. They go for a double team move on Shayna. Sasha goes for the pin. Bianca runs across the ring to stop. Not for a pin. Sasha locks in the bank statement. Bianca runs across the ring to stop Nia from interfering. She pushes Bianca into Sasha, breaking up the submission. Sasha gets really mad about this and pushes her around and calls her a rookie. Bianca gets out. Bianca is then completely just done with it. Sort of walks away, which distracts Sasha. Shayna rolls her up. Shayna hits the most devastating move in all of professional wrestling, the surprise roll up. 1, 2, 3, and we're done. Nia and Shayna retain. Then after the match, Bianca and Sasha continue to argue. And Sasha continues to say that she's a rookie and she's worthless. Slaps her in the face, and then walks up with this and walks off. And all I can say about this, I sincerely hope that was a heel turn from Sasha. Like, face Bianca and heel Sasha is what we should go in for WrestleMania. That, and of course, I've said this before, but I'll keep repeating it. Sasha Banks is a terrible babyface, but she's really damn good as a heel. So please, I hope this was a proper heel turn. Anyway, the next match was Apollo Crews versus Big E for the Intercontinental Championship. This match started off well, and then, well, yeah. And when the match starts off with Big E just trying to get some revenge on Apollo, just beating the crap out of him, then Apollo gets a little bit of back on him, tries to reverse a few things. Then he goes for a cradle pin, gets a 2 count, but then Big E just kind of moves a little bit, and suddenly the referee counts again and hits a 3 count, and then there's a kick out, and suddenly the match is over. And what they say on commentary, what happened, but they don't show a replay or anything, is that apparently Big E reversed the cradle into a pinfall to allow him so Apollo's shoulders were on the ground, and that was the 3 count. So officially Big E wins the match. Of course, after this match, Apollo is furious and attacks Big E, hits him with multiple Olympic slams, and says, "This is not over," because he has a Nigerian accent now. I have no idea whether or not that was supposed to be a botch or not. I mean, they didn't even show a replay to just show what it was, what actually happened. It was weird. That was a weird way to end the match. So, yeah, that I have absolutely no idea. What happened? No idea what happened there. That was weird. I guess they wanted to do some sort of screwy finish to make this program go on to WrestleMania. But that was weird. It's like, that was a weird way to have that happen. Like, you could have emphasized a little bit more, done something better, but no. And what's weird is that I think this pay-per-view was scheduled for being from my time from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. But when we got to the main event, it was 2 o'clock, and I don't believe the match lasted an hour. So yeah, that was weird. I think that might have been a botch, but I'm not entirely sure. I guess we'll figure out by the end, but yeah, that was fucking weird. Anyway, moving on, we had, well, to explain what happened here, here's basically what I will tell you. On the pre-show, they said, they did announce that Shane versus Braun was in fact happening on the show, but then they also showed that apparently earlier in the day, Shane McMahon had injured himself training. Like he had done some sort of jumping kick and then landed wrong. And then later we see him walk out of the trainer's room with a bandaged up knee. And then he runs into Elias, who says, "Oh, I've always dreamed of performing at WrestleMania," despite the fact that he's performed at the last 3 Manias, essentially. Well, he's performed a concert on 2 Manias and then had a match on the last one. So Shane says, "Okay, we can talk." And then later on, when this match is supposed to happen, Elias, along with his bodyguard Jackson Riker and Shane are in the ring. Elias is about to do a concert when Shane says, "Actually, you know what's going on here? You're replacing me." Shane walks out of the ring. Braun comes out, and we have this pointless match. guess we are dragging it out to WrestleMania. Anyway, it's a standard match. There's a little hope spot for Elias, but it's just, you're just sitting there waiting. It's like, okay, when is he going to hit the power slam? Just get this fucking over with. Finally hits the power slam. 1, 2, 3. We're done here. Done here, and we're probably going to move this stupid program onto WrestleMania. We could have had the US title match on the show instead of this shit. Yeah, that. So yeah, those were two matches that were not, one had a weird finish and the other was just pointless. Next up, Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Also, I should mention, I think right before this they showed an advert for Old Spice, which had Akira Tozawa looking for a hidden R-Truth, knocking him down. A guy called Average Joe or something like that, I'm not entirely sure what it was, accidentally pins R-Truth, becomes 24/7 champion, but it's immediately rolled up, so R-Truth gets his title back. Really dumb segment and really just... But anyway, back to what I was actually talking about. Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Pretty good match, you know, good back and forth. 4 counters here and there, but nothing I haven't seen before. Although the finish was really good. Basically, they were throwing a bit back and forth. Rollins runs into the ropes, runs at Shinsuke to try and kick him, but Shinsuke ducks. However, as he's doing that, Rollins hooks his leg onto Shinsuke's leg to stop his momentum from running into the next rope, and then hits a back kick into Shinsuke to knock him down. Hits the curb stomp. 1, 2, 3. He picks up the win. So yeah, that was actually pretty inventive finish. So yeah, I fully expected Rollins to win this match. So yeah. Also, one thing I do want to talk about with Rollins. Now, I mentioned that ever since he came back, he has essentially dropped his Monday Night Messiah gimmick. Well, he's on SmackDown now, but still, he's dropped his Messiah gimmick, and he's gone back to his old music. But one thing I've noticed is that he might have gone back to his old music, but he still uses his Messiah gear when he's entering the ring. He still does the pose during the entrance, and he still kind of acts like the Messiah, despite the fact that he isn't the Messiah anymore. It's weird. I don't know why they had to get rid of his music in that case. But, oh well. Next up, Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus, no holds barred. Yeah, this match was pretty good. Pretty good. Some good spots here and there. Yeah, kendo shots, hits back and forth, massive hits back and forth. They ended up brawling into the Thunderdome area where at one point Drew actually kicks Sheamus through the LED boards that the fan cameras are on, and actually breaks a few of them. They get back to the ring. Sheamus hits Drew with a white noise through the announce table, then picks up a part of the announce table, takes it and Drew back in the ring, tries to go for another white noise. Drew counters it, hits a future shock DDT onto said piece of the announce table, hits the Claymore. 1, 2, 3. Drew wins, obviously. Has to look strong for Mania. So, yeah. Not much else to say about this match. Some good spots. Good match overall. I do like the fact that as he was celebrating the match, Drew was selling the injuries he took during the match. So yeah, that's good on him. Still, I do have to echo something that I've heard a lot of fans say. I think the plan here is to have Drew win his title back in front of fans. But I actually kind of want Bobby to retain. No, not kind of. I do want Bobby to retain. Like, Bobby's been wanting to be WWE champion for ages, and I kind of want him to have a long reign with the belt, so yeah, at WrestleMania, I really just want Bobby to retain. That's probably not what WWE has in mind, but I have a feeling that if Drew were to win, it's not going to be that well received. Even like WWE is hoping for. So, yeah. I think most of us just want Bobby Lashley to hold on to that title. But yeah, that's enough of that. That match is happening at Mania. We can talk about it when we get to the Mania prediction. Speaking of matches that are happening at Mania, it's time to talk about a match that was probably set up right now. It's Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton. Randy makes his entrance to the ring. He does his pose on the turnbuckle and immediately starts coughing up the black goo again. Again, right out of the gate. So that should give you an indication of what match we're in for. Alexa Bliss comes out initially with her old music, but then suddenly switches into this distorted version of the Firefly Funhouse theme. She gets in the ring, bell rings. Randy tries to rush towards her, then a pillar of fire blows up in the ring, protecting her from Randy. Alexa then runs around the ring, and Randy tries to chase after her. Then suddenly they stop at one side of the ring. She looks up, and a light stand falls from the rafters down right in front of Orton. Doesn't hit him, but right in front of him. They get back in the ring on opposite corners. Randy again just looks at her for a moment, then tries to rush at her, and Alexa throws a fireball towards him. It doesn't hit him this time, but yeah. Alexa is then just sitting at the corner, just laughing at him, as Randy is just trying to gather himself. Then suddenly a burnt hand sticks out of the ring canvas and grabs Orton. Orton gets away. A pillar of fire emerges from the hole, and out comes the burnt carcass of the Fiend. Except it's not a carcass anymore; it's the Fiend. He's just burned. Randy's shocked by this. Then Alexa jumps from the turnbuckle, hits him with a dropkick. The Fiend catches him, and hits him with a Sister Abigail. At this point, I'm thinking, oh, that was probably a DQ, but I think this match just, even though the bell rang, I guess. And as soon as I'm thinking this, Alexa crawls over onto Randy Orton, and the referee runs back in the ring and counts to 3. So, despite interference and all the bullshit, the match happened. And Alexa Bliss won. She won the match. So, yeah. It wasn't really a match, but there was bells for beginning and end. There was a pinfall. Alexa Bliss is officially the winner. Like I predicted Alexa would win, but I didn't actually think the match would happen, but it did, technically. Anyway, so yeah, the Fiend's back. There's your match for Mania. The Fiend is back. The Fiend versus Randy Orton is probably happening at WrestleMania. So yeah. Anyway, moving right along to our main event of the show, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan for the Universal title with Edge as the special guest enforcer. Match starts off with Bryan trying to grapple Reigns to the ground. Reigns always gets out of it, but eventually he's able to power through and hit Bryan all over the place. They wrestle for a bit back and forth. It's sort of even, like Reigns is powering through, but Bryan's able to lock him in on the yes-lock a couple of times. Ultimately, at one point, Reigns gets knocked silly into the referee. Bryan goes for a running knee. Reigns ducks and Bryan hits the referee and he gets knocked down. And because Edge is the enforcer, he has to get it. He now has to take over the role as referee as Reigns spears Bryan, but only gets a 2 count. Because Edge is a bit shocked by what happened. The match then continues onward. Bryan again locks Reigns in the yes lock, has him locked in tight in the middle of the ring, and suddenly out comes Jey Uso, super kicks Edge, super kicks Bryan, gets a chair and starts beating the hell out of Bryan. Starts to beat the hell out of Edge. Tries to beat Bryan, but Bryan gets out of the way. Bryan beats the hell out of Jey Uso with the chair. He then tries to hit Reigns with the chair, but Reigns ducks it and he hits Edge, who gets knocked down again. Roman knocks him down. Tries to go for the spear, but Bryan locks him again in the yes lock. Reigns is locked in tight, and he just hold, and then you slowly see that he's just slightly tapping out. But of course, there's no right. Then Edge get back in the ring, but he doesn't see it. He hits Bryan with a chair to knock him down. Hits him again. Hits Roman with a chair. Hits Bryan again. Screams, "This is mine!" And then walks out of the ring. Walks away. Another referee runs into the ring. Roman slowly rolls over onto Bryan. 1, 2, 3. Roman retains. So, yeah. That's the ending. Roman retains, as we suspected, but there is some uncertainty in the water right now as to whether or not we're just going to get Roman versus Edge, or if Bryan is going to get added to the match because of the controversies of this match. So, yeah, that was Fastlane. Ultimately, outside of ironically, what happened on the fucking pre-show, and of course what happened in the main event, and the return of the Fiend, not much happened for the first half. Like, the second half was eventful, like from the Shinsuke match onwards, but everything before that, like the Shane and Nia match, wasn't really all that much. And if Sasha didn't turn heel, then that was kind of pointless. I hope she turned heel. But it's like the Apollo Crews Big E match just had a really confusing ending. Braun versus Elias was just unnecessary. But the rest of the card was pretty good, if maybe a bit short. So, yeah, that's kind of what I think about Fastlane. I guess it was a good show, but it was kind of like it started to get really good at the end, but I don't know, to begin with, I wasn't really all that into what was going on, and there's just some weird ass booking. Am I excited for where we're going from this? For the tag titles, we don't know where we're going from there. I'm still hoping that they drop the belts on Raw and Shayna fights Asuka at Mania. Apollo and Big E, I mean, yeah, sure, they can have probably have a good match, but that was a weird ass finish. I have zero fucking interest in Shane versus Braun at Mania. I just don't care about this whole program, this stupid angle. This match did nothing to alleviate that. It just felt pointless, and this whole program feels pointless. I don't really give a shit. Drew versus Sheamus was fine, but it didn't really matter all that much, considering that Drew was already scheduled to face Bobby at WrestleMania. So, match was good and all that, but was it really necessary to do it? Rollins versus Shinsuke was good, but Cesaro didn't show up at all, so we haven't set that match in stone for WrestleMania, but it was a good showcase for Rollins now that he's back. Alexa versus Randy wasn't really a match though, but the Fiend is back. We're setting things up there, and Randy, maybe this time he can finally put over Bray, because, you know, what happened at WrestleMania 33? They had a match for the WWE Championship, and Randy won, even though he probably shouldn't have. And the main event was pretty good, even though the finish was maybe a bit overbooked. But then again, I get why they did that. Yeah, overall, probably a good show, but I don't know. I guess it's overall a good show, and there are stuff here that is worthwhile, but part of me thinks you could have easily done of a certain of these things on weekly television, and you didn't really need to do all of this, to have this pay-per-view at all. I don't know. That's what everyone's been saying, and I just kind of agree. I feel like you could have you should have just done a lot of this at just one pay-per-view instead of having two in between Rumble and Mania. So yeah, I've rambled on long enough. I think it's time I get to editing and uploading this video. And I will see you guys, and the next time I see you guys is probably going to be for my predictions for WrestleMania. I certainly hope it's worth trying to bring fans back, because I'm still not convinced it's a good idea to do it, because remember, the pandemic isn't over. Not everyone has been vaccinated yet. Hell, here in this country, we're still focusing on the elderly and the medical workers. Not that I mind that, of course, I completely understand why we're doing that. But it's just, you know, I highly doubt every fan who's going to attend WrestleMania has been vaccinated. They did vaccinated twice already. You know, pandemic's still happening. It's still going, and probably not going to be rid of it until possibly September. I hope I'm wrong. I would very much like to get a vaccine myself much earlier, but I sincerely doubt it. So, I mean, fingers crossed things go fine at WrestleMania, but I have my doubts. But we'll talk more about that when we get to the first night of WrestleMania. Not sure if I'm going to do TakeOver, but we'll figure it out when I get there. See you then.